Howdy, be Flowbart here, and welcome. Let everything get caught up here and stabilized. Alright, how the heck are we? So, there's nothing here. Just a few targets. Let's go ahead and hit play. You can see I haven't done the clamping yet on the elevation, so it is still possible to go all the way around. But, gotta have something for Monday's video. But essentially what we're going to do is, you see if you miss your target, you get to the end distance and the shell's still going to explode. So this is our flat gun. But if you do hit a target, it is going to also explode. So one way or another, you get a pretty explosion no matter where you hit, even if you don't hit anything. No, there's no crosshair. I can add one in. We'll do that for the next part. Alright, so relatively simple with these. And what I want to do first off is show you a hotfix. And the Polygon War pack, you do get some particle effects. You get blood, explosion, explosion water, fire, gunshot, smoke, and sparks. Alright, with the explosion particle effect, I've already fixed that one. But if we put the explosion water, just throw it here in the scene, and we hit play, it's supposed to loop one time and not keep doing it over and over and over and over again. So it is broken. The explosion one is also broken. When you double click on it and open it up, you see you have three components here. What you're going to have to do is click on required on the first one and then scroll down where you see emitter loops. You want to change this to a 1, hit save. Do the same thing for smoke. Change it to 1, hit save. It is important that you hit save after you change each one or it will not take effect. So let's look at the explosion water. It has two parts. So I'm going to click on required and again scroll down. Under emitter loops, you can see by default on this is going to be 0. That is not correct. It needs to be changed to 1. Hit save. Click on required for the smoke. Same thing. Hit 1 and then click save and you're done. So now if we take the same explosion water particle effect, throw it into the map, it loops one time and it's done. So that'll come in handy later on if we're doing a ship or something of that nature and we hit water. We can say if you hit this specific target, which we'll say the ground here would be that target. If we wanted it to actually, if we hit ground, then we want it to do the water explosion, and I'll do that on the next turret. There are two turrets that are usable. If you were looking props and scroll down, you can see that the flat gun is broken up into 5 pieces. They're all static meshes and we can use those. That's what I used for the 88. I did not use the shield because I didn't want to. But what we're going to do on this example is we're going to go to, we can use the same thing for the spotlight. But there's also this one right here, and it's only 2 pieces, so it should be easy enough to work with. So what we're going to do is go ahead and create a new blueprint. And I'm going to put this in my characters folder because it's technically going to be a character. This is going to be a pawn that we can possess. So later on, if we walk over and hit E, we can now possess this. And then if we hit E again, we can unpossess it. But for now, I'm just making it functional as a standalone. And we're going to do blueprint and pawn, and we're going to call this, we're just going to call this cannon. Alright, I'm going to go into this, and the first thing I'm going to do is go back to my props folder, scroll back down to the gun, and first thing we want is the turret, and we're going to add component, and we're going to call this just turret. You can see we got this nice big gun turret. Now, technically, this could be used on a ship if we want to make our own setup or whatever else, but okay. Um, it's not going to be oriented in the right direction, but that's okay. We'll fix that as we need to. Then we're going to come back over here, select the barrel. We're going to select the turret, make sure it is selected, add component, and we're going to call this barrel. Then I'm just going to move this so that it's pretty much in the center. So whenever it elevates, we want to be able to go up and down. Later when we clamp our value, we'd want it to stop here and stop here. So it's only going to have up and down motion, whereas the turret itself is going to have left and right motion. So the first thing I'm going to do is go in here to set input to game only. This is going to ensure that we're in the correct input. And we want to get player controller so that we know that we're taking control over this and this is what it's going to do. We're going to set show mouse cursor, leave that to false. And then we're going to create a variable of can fire question mark. And then what I want to do is I want to set that to true. So it is true by default, essentially. When we start playing, we can fire. Okay. So to get going with what we're going to do, we want to be able to rotate the turret 360 degrees left and right. Now, by default, if you go into your project settings, this should already be set up in your input. I have not changed anything. On your axis mapping, we're not going to be using move forward, move right, or turn right. We're going to use turn and look up. Those are the only two that we're going to use, but they were already set up for mouse. I didn't do it. It was already there. So we want input axis turn, and this is going to handle our left and right turning. So when we do that, input axis turn, we're going to end up doing we can set this as a variable, but I'm not going to. We're going to end up multiplying this, so it's going to be a float times a float, and we're going to change this value to 1, and that's going to be our rotational speed for how fast our turret actually turns. And set world rotation of turret, because that's what we're going to be turning. So throw that up here. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to right click on new rotation and split struct. Now typically we'd probably want to use yaw, but it's probably going to be pitch. We'll have to find out. And what I'm going to do here is go into my world settings, and I'm going to change my default pawn for now to the cannon. And we don't have a camera yet, so we won't be able to see what we're doing. So let's go ahead and add a camera to the turret. Now we could add this to a spring arm and all that fancy stuff, but not really that necessary. I'm going to go ahead and just do it like this. Probably have to change this a couple dozen times just to kind of get it where we want to. But for now, I just want to be able to see what we're doing and see that we're actually getting this right. So you see, it started off, we're facing the wrong direction. Alright, so it's acting a little bit on the weird side. If it's doing that, then one thing we can do is add a component of we can add a plane to it, and then add the turret to the plane. With that plane, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and uncheck visible. And there we go. So that's that. If we plugged it into the roll, see, it's wanting to move the whole turret up and down. So why it's actually bouncing up and down, I'm not sure just yet. Interesting. We're on third-person game mode. Don't want to use third-person game mode. So let me go back to the 88. Hit play. You can see it's turning and working just fine. And I'll actually open up that blueprint. Let's see. Characters, 88. Not actually doing any firing yet. So, input access turn. What did I put in? Input access turn. Use the yaw on this one, and it needed it for turning. So I was able to use the mouse to turn left and right and move up and down. And that is what I used for the turn. And of course, you know, anytime that I'm trying to do something that is absolutely simple, it's just not going to work. So let's take turret. For now, let's move it up just to make sure that it's not interfering with anything else. No, and that's not a problem. So we're going to go ahead and finish up with the other part and see if there's something else going on here. So we'll do input access look up, which is the same thing that I used here, but access look up. And we're going to be doing the barrel itself. The camera's attached to the barrel, so that should be okay. Do the same thing here of a float times float. We're going to do, actually drag from here. We're going to do the same thing. Oh, that's what I did wrong. Wrong thing here. Control C. Add local rotation. Hey, the joys of getting old, right? Turret. And yaw. This one's going to go to here. We only want this to affect the barrel. And run this to pitch. May end up changing it, but let's just see. So there we go. We got our left and right. That's good to go. And we need to multiply this by 1. And let's see if that was the right direction. It should be, but as you can see, if I try to go up and down, it's actually rotating. So we can actually take that, instead of it being pitch, let's try it on roll. There we go. Like I said, later on we'll clamp the value down. So we can see that we're actually rotating, and we can elevate our gun, no problem. Yay, and there was much rejoicing. Like I said, the clamping value is something that we're going to have to add later on and it'll be something you'll have to sit there and tweak, but I will show that on Monday's video. This was just because I felt like video. Okay, so that's handling our looking and so forth. What I'm going to do now is actually take my camera, reset that information. Actually did not need to rotate, change. Go to 90, and we're going to actually attach this to the barrel. Well, it's already attached to the barrel, but we're actually going to put it on the barrel itself. So we can actually get, you know, kind of a view of what the barrel is actually seeing. So now, and you are not attached to the barrel. Camera to barrel, thank you. So now, as we're rotating the gun barrel around, we have a gun barrel view. And on the event graph, we'll go back over here and let's add some functionality. Let's make some boom. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is left mouse button. And that's how I'm going to fire, is by using my left mouse button. And I want to get can fire, because we need to ask, can we fire? And we need a branch node. Hook that up to here. So when we pull the trigger, we ask, hey, can we fire? If the answer is true, then set can fire to false. So we cannot fire anymore until something says, now you can fire again. If you wanted to play a sound, say like, you know, something to symbolize that, you know, you can't fire, a click or, you know, an error sound of some sort, you could actually put it in right there, but I'm not going to worry about it. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go back to our viewport, and I'm going to add another component to my barrel, and it's going to be an arrow. First off, let's grab this guy and the whole thing, rotate it 90 degrees so it's looking in the correct direction now. So this arrow component, we're going to move it to just in front of the barrel. And we'll rotate that so that the arrow is facing in the correct direction. So this is going to be our spot where we're going to fire, and we're going to throw a line trace out. We're going to do everything. So next thing we're going to want to do here is spawn emitter at location. We want to play sound at location. Sound that I want to use is my grenade cue. It's terrible, but it works. The emitter that I want to use is gunshot. And I'm going to get a couple things here. From this arrow, I'm going to drag this in, and I am going to get world location. I'm going to plug that location into here and here. And I'm also going to get world rotation. And I'm going to use that rotation for my emitter. Then at the end, and I'm going to delete this because I'm going to add a lot more stuff here in just a second. We're going to set can fire to true after a delay of 1 second. That's delightful. It are super lovely. So after a second, we'll be able to fire again. So now, pan around. Like gunshots particle effect's a little bit on the weak side, so we're going to scale it up by 5 in all dimensions. So now it's a little better. Of course, we're not shooting anything yet, so let's get to that. So I'm just going to delete those. I'll put them back in later, but just for now I'm going to delete them. So now we want to do a line trace. Line. Now you could also do a projectile. If you're going to do a projectile, then you actually need a projectile. So what I'm going to do for this example is I'm going to do no, you want to do a line trace, or do you want to use a projectile? For now, I am going to do line trace by channel. No, not multi-trace. Line trace by channel. And we need a start location. So we're going to get the location from here. Now our end location, let's go ahead and do get forward vector. So we're adding a third component here. So we're going to get this and this. And what we're going to end up doing is vector plus vector. But what we're going to add to this, which can go ahead and plug that into the end, is vector times float. Plug that into here. What this is a distance that we're going to fire. I'm going to put 10,000 in it for right now because I want it to be an extra long distance. So let's go ahead and for now as well, draw debug type for duration, and we'll leave it at 5 seconds. Compile, save, play. You see, now we can draw a line. Oh, well, we deleted the end part. So I'm just going to put those back in here. Delay. Stick them way out here because I'm going to put more stuff in here between 1 and set can fire to true. So now we can just test it out, make sure that we can shoot. Everything is great. We got line traces. Yep, that works. Alright, so next thing we want to do here is on hit. We're going to drag this off and we're going to break hit results. Now, to make sure that we're hitting correctly, what I'm going to do is bring in a branch node. And with this branch node, what I want to do is on return value, punch that in here. So by doing that, what's going to happen is if we hit something, we're going to do this. If we don't hit something, we're going to do this. And I'm going to grab this and Control V, because we want, no matter what, after we fire, we want to be able to continue shooting. So to make sure that we're still working here, bang, bang, bang. Okay, we're still working. But what we want to do is we want to spawn emitter at location. For right now, I'm just going to delete this. We're going to put it back in. Don't worry. Relax. It'll be okay. The impact point is going to go in here. We're going to select our explosion here. And we also want to play sound at location so that we get an explosion sound. If you're over next to the target and somebody's shooting at you, then you kind of want to know. You want to hear it. So it's going to play that. There's no attenuation, so it's just going to play no matter what. I would add attenuation to the sound cue. I just have not yet. Which that's just a matter of doing this and going to sounds, sound attenuation, boom, go in there, and we'll keep it small and centralized. And go back into our grenade cue, our attenuation settings, use that boom cue. So now whenever we're firing, our gun and our impacts are going to have their own sound attenuation that's the same right now. So we got that. So when it actually hits, it's going to perform that. You're going to get an explosion. So let's go ahead and turn off our line trace. Turn that back to none. Because that's cheating. We're not going to have a laser come out whenever we're firing. See, I did not hit anything, so I broke my gun. That's no problem. We're going to come back and fix that. So we can put that in here. Now, I'm going to grab all of that, Control-C and Control-V, and I'm just going to position that there. So if we miss, then we're going to go to here, and our impact point is giving us all this location. Trace end is what we're going to use now for our location. So, excuse me, connect. Thank you. If we don't hit anything, wherever the end of our trace distance is, or our maximum range of our weapon, wherever that is now going to have that explosion happen. So if I just fire up in the air, you see we get an explosion in the air. So if I miss, we're getting something one way or the other. Let me actually turn down the muzzle explosion there, or the gunshot, just because it looks like a little bit too much. So that's that. We can elevate, we can turn, we have control over it. What I would do later on is have these set up into the map, whereas your player walks over to it, you would be able to possess it. And as you know, you can see when we're playing, you can't move around. You can't like drive it across the ground because these are fixed gun turrets, and that's awesome. Now, the reason why you cannot use these tanks in that manner is, well, it's because the tanks are one solid piece. They need to be split apart. And the reason why I say that is they're good vehicles, and they're listed under vehicles rigged. But if you look at the skeleton, let's close our cannon. We're good with our cannon for now. All the stuff, including the tracks, are, well, they're just static. Yes, there's wheels, there's bogies, there's a turret, there's all that stuff, and yes, you can pose them, you can rotate them around, that's fine, but your barrel, turret, these two items need to be removed from this physical model to be able to correctly and easily be able to change. Now, because of the way we did the actual gun turrets we're using right now, if I were to put both of them into the map, well, first off, we need to go into that one and lower it back down again. viewport. And we need to grab the turret, lower it down. So let's actually zoom in to where it is on the map. Probably leave it partially into the ground like that, so that when you look at it onto the map itself, it looks like it's part of the terrain. If you wanted to clamp this value down to where it also couldn't move left and right too far, then that's fine as well. But for now, just want to get us up and running with some shooting, basic shooting system. Now, all this right here could be modified. Well, primarily this part. If you wanted to use a projectile system, using a projectile, essentially, instead of doing a line trace at this point, you'd want to spawn actor from class, and then you would select the projectile as your actor, and then from there, the projectile itself needs to have its own specific like velocities and so forth, and you want it to, if it hit or whenever it hit or impacted an item, it did the explosion sound and particle effect, and it did the did X number of damage and things of that nature. But this is going to get us to the point where, for Monday's video, what I'll probably end up doing is either on Monday or Wednesday, I'll do another video on this to where we're actually doing the clamping so that it doesn't go too far. What kind of got me going on this particular project was still trying to work on the tank, trying to get it more functional, just to kind of showcase what has to happen. We're going to go ahead and hit save all. And I said I'd throw in one of these guys. So we can turn around and look. We got both of our guns here. Alright, so we're going to do a save all. Save selected. We'll get ready to wrap up this video. And I will open up a little project really quickly. Yeah. Now this is far from finished on getting the prototype of the tank running and working and so forth. But this is why I was saying that the actual tank itself needs to be separate so that we could do, I haven't done the clamping on this one either. So it looks kind of dorky where you can sit here and rotate your values around. But you can drive forward, you can turn left and right using WASD, go backwards, you can turn the turret separately. So yeah. But what I've had to do is, on the tank itself, is the same things here. Input access, look up, look right, and then movement, move forward and move right. And your move forward is add actor local offset. Your turning is add actor local rotation. And then, of course, the same thing here. You're using the turret and the gun separately. As you can see, what I've done is create the tank body. Now, you'll see that there is tracks here, but if you were to look at the skeleton for them, it's because I have preview assets. So, there we go. So if you look at the skeleton, all it is just the basic body of the tank itself. And the gun itself has its own skeletal mesh. So it's skeletal mesh, skeletal mesh, skeletal mesh all the way across the board. I probably could have just kept them as these, as static meshes. I just didn't. I separated them, and I did a video on this of creating that, but that was all just to get to where I could easily turn the turret left and right 360 degrees, and of course, you know, raising and lowering the gun. That again will be clamped so that you can't go. Let's say if you were looking this way, you'd want to clamp the value to there overall. So that's your gun depression, and your gun elevation, I'll probably set it to where it's no more than about like that. Or like that. You really don't have a whole lot of elevation in most tanks. But you definitely don't want to be doing this. You're not doing a flat gun. You're not trying to shoot behind you. But, like I said, I'll show how to do the clamping of the values on these so that you can limit the up and down of the guns so that they're not able to flip all the way around. Now, I did not make this tank shootable yet, but I just wanted to showcase that getting them to where you can actually control them is really, really easy. And that's all it was, is adding in those components separately. What I've suggested to Cindy Studios, and hopefully they'll take to heart, is on their vehicles rigged. If you look at vehicles static, then this doesn't apply to any of those. We may do later on is make the rocket functional. But for now, what needs to happen is the tanks. Prime example, the Sherman. The turret needs to be separated from the body, and the gun itself needs to be separate from the turret. So they're going to need to split this. Now, I would also say probably do something with the tracks. There's a way of manipulating the material instance to make it look like the track is actually moving based on the engine RPMs and so forth. Then you can operate them separately from each other so that if you're turning, one could be going forward, one could be going backwards if you're doing a pivot turn, things like that. But at minimum, the turret needs to be separated from the main body of the chassis, and the gun itself needs to be removed from the turret. That's something that needs to happen on the tanks. There is one exception, and that would be, actually there's two exceptions. The I'm going to say it's probably an SU-85, and the Stug. The Stug is, and the SU-85 is a different beast. The only thing that needs to happen to these guys, at minimum, is this gun needs to be separate from the rest of the body. Because on this thing, pretty much, the gun is only going to be able to go up and down, and a very, very small amount left and right. So we just need to have the gun separated from the chassis. Same thing on the SU-100 or Russian Tank 2. The gun needs, this gun right here needs to be separated from the chassis. On the ships, starting with the submarine, you have a small deck gun. That itself, deck gun and deck gun. These two pieces right here need to be separated from the rest of the submarine. Just need to get all three of these pieces separate. So you'll have three pieces instead of one here. Again, there might be a way of creating an animation blueprint system to make them work, but it would be a lot simpler just to rip the deck gun from the sub and then remove the gun from the deck gun piece so that you can actually do it the way that I showed the first part of the video. On the two ships themselves, just show on one because this will carry over for both. This is the large one, and what needs to happen is the gun itself. Keep it simple. On this, I would actually take and remove what you're calling a large one gun remove that from the ship and remove the barrels. You can either keep, since the barrels are all the same barrel, you could combine all three barrels into a single unit, or you can separate them. I would probably, for the sake of what most people would end up doing anyway, not everybody, but most people would end up taking and making it to where all three guns elevate the exact same all the time. So when you're firing the guns, you're firing all three guns at once. So that's what I would do, is separate the gun turret and the guns from the ship. And as much as it would be cool as hell, it'd be nice to have these secondary guns actually removed and put separate, but they're fine the way they are for the most part. Minimal for the ships. Remove the turret itself and remove the gun barrels from the ship so that they can be put together separately, the same way that I've done here in the blueprint cannon and the other one. So as you can see, I have the turret separated and the barrel separated. I've attached them to each other, but then by doing it this way, it allows people to actually be able to create control systems that are really, really simple and easy for controlling the guns. Alright, I hope everybody enjoyed the video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a damn thumbs up anyway. Make sure you subscribe. Come by my Discord channel if you have questions about it. And as always, I thank you for watching, and we will see you around.